Malaysia's story begins deep in prehistory. In the Lenggong Valley, archaeologists found human remains over 40,000 years old. These early hunter-gatherers moved through lush forests and along winding rivers, leaving behind stone tools and cave paintings. The Orang Asli, Malaysia's indigenous peoples, are their descendants, preserving traditions and a deep connection to the land even today. By about 300 BCE, the Malay Peninsula saw new arrivals. Austronesian-speaking peoples, skilled in sailing and farming, settled along the coasts and rivers. They brought rice cultivation and developed trade links with neighboring lands. The region's strategic location caught the attention of distant traders, especially from India. Indian traders arrived with spices, textiles, and precious metals. More than goods, they brought new beliefs, Hinduism and Buddhism. Local leaders adopted Indian rituals and royal symbols to legitimize their rule. Sanskrit words entered the Malay language, and Indian stories inspired art and architecture. Kingdoms began to rise, like Kedah and Langkasuka. These early states blended local traditions with Indian influences. Temples, inscriptions, and coins from this era show a flourishing cultural exchange. Trade ports attracted merchants from across Asia, making the peninsula a vibrant hub. This early mix of cultures shaped the identity of the Malay world. It set the stage for later kingdoms and created a legacy of openness to outside ideas, a hallmark of Malaysia's history. Around the 7th century, the Srivijaya Empire emerged from southern Sumatra. Its power stretched across the Straits of Malacca, controlling vital maritime trade routes between India and China. Srivijaya's rulers collected taxes from passing ships and sent ambassadors as far as China's Tang dynasty. The empire's reach included much of the Malay Peninsula. Ports like Kedah and Tambralinga flourished under its protection. Buddhism became the dominant religion, and monasteries attracted scholars from as far as India. The stone inscription at Ligor records the glory and religious life of Srivijaya's golden era. Srivijaya was not just about power, it was about connections. The empire welcomed traders, pilgrims, and diplomats. Goods from the Middle East, India, and China mixed in its busy ports. This made Srivijaya a center of learning and culture, as well as commerce. But empires rise and fall. In the 11th century, attacks from the Chola dynasty of India weakened Srivijaya. New rivals appeared, and the once mighty network began to fragment, opening the way for new powers. In the early 15th century, a new power emerged, the Malacca Sultanate. Founded by Parameswara, a prince from Palembang, Malacca grew from a fishing village into the region's greatest port. Its location on the Straits of Malacca made it the perfect meeting point for traders from China, India, Arabia, and beyond. Islam arrived with traders from Gujarat and the Middle East. The sultans embraced the new faith, and Malacca became the leading center of Islamic learning in Southeast Asia. Mosques, schools, and courts were built, blending local customs with Islamic law and culture. Malacca's success attracted people from many lands: Arabs, Persians, Tamils, Javanese, and Chinese. The city's openness made it a melting pot of ideas, languages, and traditions. The Malacca Sultanate set the pattern for Malay identity, a blend of local roots, Islam, and international connections. But Malacca's wealth also made it a target. In 1511, Portuguese forces captured the city, marking the end of its golden age and the dawn of European influence in the region. The Portuguese seized Malacca to control the spice trade, building a Formosa fortress and ruling harshly. A century later, the Dutch arrived, allied with locals, and ousted the Portuguese in 1641. By the late 1700s, the British took Penang and founded Singapore, soon controlling most of the Malay Peninsula. Colonial rule redrew boundaries and transformed Malaysia's society and economy. The British era marked a time of rapid economic change. Tin mining and rubber plantations became the backbone of the economy. British companies invested heavily, transforming the landscape with mines, roads, and towns. The demand for labor soared. To meet this need, the British encouraged migration. Chinese workers came to work in tin mines, while Indians labored on rubber estates and railways. Malay farmers stayed in villages, growing rice and raising livestock. This created a unique social mix, three major communities living side by side. Cities like Kuala Lumpur and Ipoh grew quickly, bustling with markets, temples, and mosques. New schools, newspapers, and clubs appeared, reflecting the diversity of their populations. The country's wealth attracted traders and professionals from the Middle East, Europe, and Southeast Asia. This era forged Malaysia's multi-ethnic society. It also brought challenges, competition, and misunderstanding among communities and a growing desire for self-rule. British rule formalized its hold through treaties and federations. In 1896, several states were merged into the Federated Malay States, run by British residents. Other areas remained unfederated, keeping more autonomy but still under British influence. The Strait settlements, Penang, Malacca, and Singapore, were ruled directly from London. Meanwhile, Borneo's story unfolded differently. The Brooke family ruled Sarawak as White Rajas, while North Borneo, now Sabah, was managed by a British company. Both regions developed plantations and towns, but remained less connected to the Malay Peninsula. Colonial policies favored economic growth, but often neglected local needs. Education was divided by ethnicity. Political power remained in British hands, though small groups began to push for reforms. These divisions, geographic, economic, and social, would pose challenges when Malaysia sought to unite as one nation. In December 1941, Japan invaded Malaya. Within just a few weeks, British forces collapsed. The Japanese occupation brought hardship and fear. Food was scarce, and violence was, unfortunately, common. Many suffered under forced labor and harsh rule. Some Malaysians resisted. The Malayan people's anti-Japanese army, led mainly by Chinese communists, waged guerrilla warfare in the jungles. Others tried to survive by simply keeping their heads down. The occupation really deepened distrust among ethnic groups, and that legacy would last long after the war. The defeat of the British shattered the myth of Western invincibility. When Japan surrendered in 1945, Malaysians began to dream of independence. Old colonial structures no longer seemed unbreakable. The war changed attitudes. It planted the seeds for new political movements and gave ordinary people a taste of self-reliance and the cost of division. After the war, the struggle for Malayan independence began in earnest. The British returned but faced fierce opposition. The Malayan Communist Party launched an armed insurgency known as the Emergency. The government responded with tough security measures, but also started reforms. Political parties grew. The United Malays National Organization, or UMNO, championed Malay rights, while the Malayan Chinese Association and the Malayan Indian Congress represented other communities. These parties formed the Alliance, working together for independence. In 1957, Malaya became independent under Tunku Abdul Rahman. In 1963, Malaysia was formed, joining Malaya with Sabah, Sarawak, and Singapore. Hopes were high, but challenges soon appeared. Singapore left the Federation in 1965 after political and racial tensions. Building unity among Malaysia's diverse peoples proved difficult. Yet the dream of a peaceful, prosperous nation remained strong. The years after independence were marked by hope and hardship. In 1969, racial riots in Kuala Lumpur exposed deep divides. The government responded with a new economic policy, aiming to reduce poverty and bridge the gap between Malays and non-Malays. Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad led Malaysia into rapid modernization in the 1980s and 90s. Skyscrapers rose in Kuala Lumpur, new highways crossed the land, and industries from electronics to tourism flourished. Malaysia became known as an Asian tiger, attracting investment and global attention. Yet challenges remained, balancing growth with fairness, protecting cultural harmony, and ensuring democracy. Political scandals and changes in government tested the nation's resolve. Still, Malaysia's people adapted, drawing on their shared history and resilience. Today, Malaysia is a vibrant, diverse nation. Its cities buzz with life, while traditions remain strong in rural heartlands. Malaysia's journey from ancient kingdoms to modern marvels is more than just history. It is the story of a people who learned to live with difference and change. The country's blend of cultures, religions, and ideas is both its greatest strength and its greatest challenge. Understanding Malaysia's past helps explain its present. The lessons of openness, resilience, and compromise are as important now as ever. As the world faces new uncertainties, Malaysia's experience shows the value of unity in diversity. Malaysia's layered history gives it a unique voice in the global community. Its future will be shaped by how well it honors its past while embracing innovation and inclusivity. The story continues, written every day by its people, In the end, the complete history of Malaysia is a reminder: nations are not made in a moment, but in centuries of struggle, adaptation, and hope.